Hello and welcome to Media Canvas, a show in which I consume a piece of media and then I review it. In 2008, there was a Writers Guild strike in Hollywood that led to many shows receiving a shorter run for a season or getting outright canceled. Some of these television shows would likely have been canceled anyways, and others sadly ended before they reached their conclusion. This is the case for the show Pushing Daisies. As it was only 9 episodes into its season, it had to quickly adjust to have a season finale slash cliffhanger. Thankfully, the show got a second season, but it suffered from pacing after that, where it was forced to take weird twists to speed up slash slow down story points because of the Writers Guild strike, and then it was ultimately canceled and got an okay conclusion. Here I am over a decade later, and when reminded that the show existed, I dove in to see if it was as good as I remembered it being. Set in a surrealist fairy tale version of reality, where the things we've come to expect in television shows like dialogue, colors, and visuals are cranked all the way up to 11. At times, the show almost looks like an illustration you might find in a children's pop up book or picture book. Bright colors and distinctive shapes are used to keep everything visually compelling. But notably, as outlandish as it could be, it makes excellent use of color palettes to make sure it's not a jarring barrage of color. The CGI is fairly decent and is used to expertly enhance the visual style of the entire world. Costuming is both outrageous in its tone, but also fitting for the fairy tale world in which the show resides. Styles that range across eras of clothing, which fits with the fact that they're in a variety of modern to antique vehicles in the show. Now, we'll get to the concept that drives the show forward. We can begin to understand why the show is set in a surreal fairy tale reality. Our primary character has the ability to touch a dead person and bring them back to life. Already an excellent device to drive a plot that they use as part of the murder of the week style of story. The rules of this power are that the individual may only be returned to life for 1 minute, or someone else must die in order to balance the universe. A second touch will return the risen dead back to death. Well, a less whimsical show would lean into the horror of murder victims who honestly suffer pretty gruesome deaths. Pushing Daisies instead makes it very matter of fact that they never ever really bring up the murdered individual's experience in the afterlife, which is to this show's benefit, as it doesn't create any sort of existential crisis for the characters in the show or the audience. While the deaths can be extremely gruesome, the costuming and makeup somehow keep it on the whimsical side to the point where it's not wholly disturbing. Our show's cast consists of 4 primary characters and 2 primary recurring characters. We, of course, have our main character, Ned, the pie maker, who is the one with the power to bring back the dead to life. Portrayed by Lee Pace, who puts a bit of anxiety on the character because of the traumas of the character's past and slowly shows his recovery from those traumas throughout. He received an Emmy nomination for the role. Next, there is Charlotte Chuck Charles, played by Anna Friel, who our dead character is brought back to life with the joy of the world and wonder from her second take on life. A childhood friend and first love of Ned, she helps him recover from his traumas and brings a humanity to the victims of murder the show has every week. The murder of the week is driven by Emerson Codd, a private eye who has found out the pie maker's secret and saw an opportunity to increase his profits for solving murders. Chi McBride's comedic timing and seriousness in the show is well rounded and turns expectations on its head, as the character has so much style in his outfits, often capped by something that the character knits himself. Kristen Chenoweth, who won an Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series for her role as Olive Snook, is a character outside of the secret of raising the dead. but she brings her own set of charms to the show as the character who is hopelessly romantic to the point where she breaks out in song at points. It's something you don't really question due to the nature of the timing and the world. Our consistent recurring characters are Vivian and Lily Charles, who are played by Ellen Green and Swoosie Kurtz, respectively. They act as the agrophoric ants of Chuck, a super peaceful character set against a very gruff one, makes for an excellent dynamic as they slowly move back out into the world through the help of the other characters. Murder of the Week is done in many types of crime procedural shows and dives into the horror of humanity and violence and death of it all. But Pushing Daisies uses the murder of the week to drive the actual story that exists in the show. It is a show about recovering from trauma and abuses of the past. As the show moves on, we gain more and more information about all of our characters and the things that cause them to be who they are. With episodes approaching different parts of that trauma and working on it in a way, one way or another, but never fixing it right away. Growing past these things is not something that happens immediately, and the show works on it all over time and helps the characters to grow, which grounds them in reality beyond the fairy tale world. A fairy tale about a man who can bring people back as a zombie to speak to them, that is disguised as a crime comedy drama. It is really about overcoming your traumas and abuses. A cast who really sells it, and well, perhaps at times pushing it just a bit too far towards overacting because of the whimsical fairy tale like reality in which the show takes place. It never really feels out of place. Pushing Daisies could have been very off putting, but in the fact that they gave it an absolutely dripping amount of style throughout, it helps keep the entire thing captivating. A struggle for pacing because of the writer's strike and a fast conclusion because of the show's cancellation keep the show from being perfect. But it is a bite of whimsy that can really be an enjoyable watch, and that is the reason I give Pushing Daisies a 4 out of 5. I want to mention that White Wing on Twitter, Greg from Very Random Encounters, reminded me of the show because he was tweeting about it, and that's what got me to dive into this. Other than that, as always, you can find me on YouTube and social media at DAMEKAGE. Until next time.